time when I couldn't stop laughing was back in about 1953 or 54 when I was working for General Electric Credit Corporation. And I had two friends, Jay and Sherry, who were both good friends. We had worked together for a year and we saw that we were going to have a long relationship. But Jay and I always had a way of nudging each other. So there we were on the train coming home because he lived not too far away from where I lived in the Bronx. And we're on the elevated train, and as we're going past Gun Hill Road, he and I are into it. You're ugly, you're not as good looking as me, you're fat, you don't know how to talk, that sort of stuff. Between the two of us going back and forth, getting louder and louder, and the conductor comes. And the conductor says, guys, if you're gonna fight, get off the train. And we started laughing, and for the next 5 stops, we laughed all the way. It was one of the funniest things that I can remember. There were other funny things, but that one stood out as you asked that question.
That's fun. That's
Yes.
awesome.
Jay and Sherry remained friends until 1990, for over 40 years, close to 50 years, and then the two of them died. They were the closest friends I ever had until some years ago I had one more friend. And a friend with them was anything, whatever. We were always together. It was wonderful.
Who was that friend?
That was John Mulrooney. And I got to know him in 1992 when I was Grand Knight of the Knights of Columbus. And John Mulrooney had just come in. And for whatever reason, John wrote an article for the newspaper. And knowing that I was the Grand Knight, he said, Sam, would you take a look at this? And I did. I critiqued this for him. And he rewrote it with the critique in mind. It went over very well. He and I became very good friends. He then became a Grand Knight. He and I stayed together until 2 years ago when he died. But any place we go together. We take our wives, we go to the dances, St. Patrick's Day dance, Italian night dance, wonderful stuff. We had the most wonderful time. In the last 6 months of his life, he had cancer, was dying slowly. I would visit with him. His wife would be overjoyed that I came because he was just going so slowly. And he ultimately passed away. We had fun at his wake because she asked me to say something at his wake. Now you can imagine there are 100 people at a wake, right? So she asked me to speak about, well, I said, the only thing I can think about is his sense of humor. Because, John, he always had a sense of humor. And I figured, well, he was dead, he couldn't do anything more. Well, I found out today that he was holding back on me all those years. Do you know what? He was 4 months older than I was, and he never told me. If I had known, I would have respected my elders. John Mulrooney. So John, Jay, and Sherry, 3 wonderful guys. You asked me if I was ever fearful and afraid. I probably was. I can't think of any. I do know that there were times that I was anxious, but that's a horse of a different color. There was a time when I was on the Board of Education and a fellow jumped on the table because he didn't like what I said, and he put his fist in my face and said, you say another word, I'll put this fist right through your head. And he could have done it because he was a big guy and whatever. And I looked at him and I said, you do that, you'll never use that fist again. And you know what? He backed off. He got off the table, he sat down, and he was a good boy from then on. I got a kick out of that. You know, there was a lot of bravado, but the truth of the matter is, I was not afraid. And that was a very important thing. When I was a little kid, my father talked to me about fear. And what he told me about was that when he first went back to Italy, he came from Italy to the United States in 1905. He was 4 years old. He went back the year after and stayed there for 3 more years. While he was there, for those 3 years, he did lots of things, but he was telling me about the kids that were there that he was playing with. And one day they went up to the top of the mountain. And they were always picking on him because he was the shortest guy. Because my father, at the tallest in his life, was 5'6". So they were picking on him, and my father said, I couldn't stand it. He said, so I went to the biggest guy and said, I'm going to fight you. And he went, and they were on the top of the mountain. And because he said, you got to be kidding. He said, no. My father said he fought the big guy. The big guy won the fight. But my father won what he wanted. He won the respect of everybody else. It was a whole different world. My father taught me at that point about fear. If you use fear, you come to a halt. You don't do anything. You got to get away from the fear. Don't be frightened. Just go on with your life. Even up until a couple of years ago, the question of fear and how you treat it, or anxiety and how you treat it, or intimidation, which is a better terminology. I was at a meeting, and I was new to this meeting. There was a committee that was not moving any place, but one of the members asked me to join because he said he thought I might be able to move the committee forward. And so I went to the meeting, and as all good meeting goers do, you have your agenda. And I had my agenda. I listened to their agenda, and then I put my agenda on the table. And the chairman and the co-chairman started to yell at me because they thought that what I had as my agenda was totally irrelevant and should never have been presented. And so they were going on and on and on. And for 15 minutes they were doing that. And I listened to them and listened to them and listened to them and kept asking them questions. They kept doing the same thing of the intimidating yelling and things like that. When the meeting was all over, the last item that I presented to them, they cheered. They said, it's wonderful, right? Well, over the next few weeks, I got apologies from people who were at that meeting for letting that happen. And it struck me that the same thing my father had said before, don't give in to the intimidation, don't give in to the threats and stuff like that. And you can walk away with the respect and understanding and be able to get things done. As a result of that, we ended up with the Windows book, which you will probably get to see very shortly. Talking to the unborn or unborn at this point in my family, who at some time in the future may be listening to this, and even to those who are there today who are listening to it, I want to say that the thing that is most important in my life, and has been the most important in my life, and I believe should be the most important in your life, is that you hold on, you become religious, and you hold on to your religion. You can only live this life while you're here. Religion carries you to the beyond. We talk about being born, and a child, when it's born, is crying, much like they're not very anxious to leave the womb because they're so comfortable there. And so they cry for that. Well, when we're alive in this world, we want to hold on to it too. But who knows? Going on to the next world will be better. But our lives are really very short. Now mine, looks like I'll be an octogenarian, at least for a while, and all of you will hopefully sometime get to that point. And I've had a few painful times, but the truth of the matter is that my God has carried me through that all. I believe in God, I believe in Jesus Christ, and I pray constantly, and I go to religious services constantly. As a little kid, I used to go to Mass daily, and then life caught up with me, and I lived my way through my whole life. And then when my wife Dolores passed away, I found that I now had the time to be able to devote to that again. So I go to Mass daily. I pray the Rosary. Those things carry me through, because there's a hierarchy in this world. I mean, whether you go to a business or government or any place, there's always a hierarchy. Well, in this world, the hierarchy is God, and the rest of us fit underneath that. So I believe in that, and because I believe in that, I can live my life pretty fully and freely. I don't have to be afraid of anything. And not being afraid of anything, I'm able to survive on a day-to-day basis when things get tough. That's the message I would like you all to get.